episode 492. Ever on the road to 500. Not for much longer. The Free Cheese is a weekly video game podcast about video games brought to you once a week by thefreecheese.com. I'm your Joe Dix, joined by Matt Sellner.
Hello.
Mark Augustiniak.
Hey.
I broke the order of things there, but I'm not gonna restart. We're gonna keep rolling, because that's what we do now. We're just living in a weird world where OCD will not reign supreme here. This week, Season 11 continues as we rank and review video games from all sorts of backgrounds, and we're all over the place this year. We're continuing with Lifeline, a PlayStation 2 classic. Before we dive into Lifeline, Mark, name a video game that would benefit by removing the ability to play it with your hands and only allowing you to play with your mouth.
Kirby.
Good answer.
You get like
Inhale.
Yeah. You have like a harmonica-esque attachment that that rests on your shoulders or like neck, whatever, and the breathing and exhaling, that will go through. And
that's good. I appreciate you leaning into the fact that I did not specify with your voice and said mouth. That's very good, Matt. What game would be better if you couldn't play it, but instead you had to talk to it?
Microsoft Flight Simulator.
How would that work? Fly left, fly up.
No, like hit red button, third up and middle dashboard.
Oh, you're insane.
Uh-huh.
Oh, but that's the experience of Lifeline that it seems you've had, yes.
I mean...
Well, we're going to get right into it with Lifeline. Lifeline, developed by Sony Computer Entertainment Incorporated, originally published by Sony Computer Entertainment in Japan, when brought to North America, localized and published by Konami Digital Entertainment. Released on the PlayStation 2. First in Japan on January 30th, 2003. We got it in North America March 2nd, 2004. So the game's 20 years old as of the other week. Back of the box. Are you ready for this one? This one's quite the back of the box. I am actually going to go all the way through it. We're not just going to get a paragraph. We're going to get the entirety. Starting with the title, which I feel like the full title of the game is important here. Lifeline. Voice action adventure. Your voice is her command. Christmas Eve, 2029. Grand opening of the Japan Space Station Hotel. Bizarre creatures invade and begin slaughtering guests. You're trapped inside a security monitoring room. Your only contact, a hotel employee named Rio. She's armed, beautiful, and she'll do anything you tell her. With your voice, you are her navigator. With her courage, she is your enforcer. Your alliance is the lone hope for survival. And possibly your only lifeline. The first entirely voice-activated game on PlayStation 2, your voice commands the action. Thousands of words and phrases recognized. Compatible with USB headsets for PlayStation 2. I'm not going to go into the number of players and, how many blocks it takes up when you're... Memory card. But that's the back of the box. It's a lot to take in. I'd never heard of this game until Mark brought it up a few years ago. We were, and I remember the exact moment. We were in the flea market shopping for video games, and I believe we saw a copy of PN03 for the Nintendo GameCube, and we were talking about it, and like, oh, wasn't this one of the Capcom 5? And then I remember Mark saying like, yeah, this reminds me of Lifeline, and you telling me all about Lifeline and what it was. That was the first time I'd learned about it. Had never heard of it prior to that.
Why did I say that?
Just because of I think it's like of that era. Piano 3 is like of that, early 2000s kind of sci-fi-esque, whatever.
Maybe it's like similar box art of just like sci-fi woman's back to the camera.
Yeah, I think it is. Matt, when was the first time you heard or learned of Lifeline?
I will say this is gonna be one of those games this year where I had not heard of it until this. Prepared for this season of video games. I will, however, say this box art, even then, that box art looks familiar. Like I've seen this game, I was never paid any attention to it.
So, Mark, you selected Lifeline.
Sure.
What was the rationale behind it? I'd like for the listeners to hear.
Well, I actually did play this way back when it first came out. My friend owned it, and we thought it was a neat little gimmick to have something like that, because nothing like that really existed around that time, except for like Hey You Pikachu or something.
Right.
But didn't get far. I remember getting frustrated, and then when it came to picking games this year, I was like, you know what? I'm curious on how everyone else will handle this game. It was kind of a troll pick, to be honest. So I knew it was going to be frustrating one way or another, but I didn't know how it would be, and I didn't realize how much of that would bite back on me. So, kind of played myself in the end, and here we are.
I do, yeah. I mean, we'll get into it here for the listeners, but I do feel like based on our Discord chat surrounding this game, you had the worst time with this compared to Matt and I.
Debatable.
Maybe not worst time, but it sounds like
Yeah.
we were a little more forgiving of it than you were in the end.
Still debatable.
All right.
I specifically remember Matt typing like a paragraph or two being upset, and then every here and then you were just like kicking Rio while she was down.
No, that's fair. And I do, I guess, yeah. I mean, so, Matt, how did you react to playing this game?
At first it was like, for its issues. I mean, this is the technology around this game. I just assumed it uses, like, in the background, it uses like your voice, it dictates it, and then the dictation feeds in, and then from there it gets its thing. With anything, I could be completely wrong, by the way. That's just how I figured it out. With anything like that, of course, territorial slangs, things like that, it's not going to register 100%. I mean, God, even on my phone, Siri doesn't understand what I say 100% of the time. It's like 80%. Knowing this is a PS2 game from 2003 with microphones that are probably really shitty back in the day, of course, I'm playing with a little bit better of it. Well, I would hope a lot better of a headset. I understand going in. I knew what was going to happen going into this game. I knew things were going to go bad, or I was going to say things and they weren't going to register or things like that. So I was lenient, but I have to say my accuracy with hitting commands was pretty good. My biggest thing was like, if there was a thing on a if you were like expecting a table and you were trying to get Ryu to grab that object, I wouldn't know what to call it because of the low polygon count and the terrible what's the word I'm looking for? Like not graphics, but like it was a very like the image on the texture. The texture was bad.
Texture. Yeah.
Yeah. Or like, there's 3 vending machines, but you can't say middle. You have to say second from the left. It was like stuff like that was more challenging than than just playing the game and kind of naturally going through it. So yeah, at first I besides those little things, I was doing all right. And then when I would run into these things, I was playing along with a walkthrough. So that way, when I not to know what to do, but more so like if I got to an object like that, I wasn't taking 10 minutes to try and figure out what the hell this thing was, no matter how I tried to describe it to her. So at first, I would say I was kind of like, I'm not going to say this was like the greatest game I've ever played, but I was actually enjoying it for a little bit. And then it's the combat where this game, I think, falls apart. And it's that how I would describe like heat of the moment types of things when pressure is on, because most of the game is, I don't want to take too much time here, but like most of the game is exploring. Like you just go from room to room, place in room to place in room, look at like 3 objects in that certain place in room, and then you just kind of go on your way. And you could tell her to run to the next section and kind of hurry it up a little bit, but it's mostly just paced like that, where you kind of take your time and go wherever. But as the enemies were getting a little bit more complex and more timing based, that's where this game, I think, really falls apart. And that's when, in those heat of the moments things, you may save, reload, and it is taken as recover, and then you use one of your 5 health potions or whatever they were to recover full health to full health. And it just kind of sucks the life out of you. But like I said, overall, kind of getting started, I thought it was unique and not a bad experience at all.
Mark, did you have that with this return to Lifeline? Did you find that it was picking up on what you said? Were you running into trouble once you got into combat situations? What was the reaction you had to it?
Pretty similar to Matt's. I think at first it started out pretty well for the most part. If we're talking just like strictly gameplay, like exploring definitely was, I think, more of a challenge than the combat. For different reasons, but yeah, like mostly with the texture stuff, I don't think it helps that it was a sci-fi game. So already, a lot of things that you would be familiar with don't even have the same look that you're expecting. Like a cigar box does not look like a cigar box. Like just things like that.
That's a good point.
Or like
the newspaper, the very first room, that newspaper.
Right. Like they call it a newspaper, but it's not even paper. It's
a tablet.
I was calling it a tablet. I was saying pick up the tablet on the table. Do what? You want me to go to the dresser?
Right. So like it kind of hurt itself in that way for having objects that don't even look familiar to recognize. So it didn't help trying to identify it. I think that eats up most of the time in this game, is trying to figure that stuff out. So yeah, it's like the fact that like you have to use a guide to try to make sure what it's called kind of already says a lot about the game. And then like I guess some context or like lore stuff also doesn't make sense with the gameplay. Like I think they were just trying to make something work in the end, and I can see that for what it is. But yeah, I don't know. Having Rio be this experienced person with a gun who apparently doesn't know how to shoot it unless you tell her to. Somebody who has no experience whatsoever. You're just a dude. You're just a dude in a security room. You have no combat experience, but yet you got to tell her how to be combative. I don't know.
To be fair, couldn't you use the command auto battle?
Where was that at?
You have to say it. I think it was one of the tickets. Like,
so the whole thing.
I remember picking up that ticket or whatever that collectible was with the commands. But I'm pretty sure you could say that. I never used it because I was an idiot and I didn't trust her.
But the whole game just should have been like that. Then it's just freaking like Digimon World it, just sit back and.
Because yeah, I mean, to both of your point, I think the exploration side of it is pretty doable. I do think that probably at the same point where you got frustrated, Matt, you reach a point in the game, or at least I did, because I definitely got frustrated and was like, all right, I think I've had enough of this. But you reach this point where there's been enough inconsistencies with your voice detection or with those sort of like pick up the book on the table. Or like there was one I remember being really, really mad at where it was I think it was a handbag on a table. And I was like, go to the table. And she went to the table. And I was like, pick up the handbag. I'm sorry, you have to be more specific. Pick up the red bag? You want me to go to the dresser? Okay. And then she'd walk away from the table and I'm like, okay, well, I'm here. Let me just do this. Okay, I'll go back to the table. I'm like, what are you doing? And then finally there, I was just like, pick up bag. And she's like, oh, you want me to pick up the red bag? Or like whatever the thing I had originally guessed, she finally like came around to. I'm like, why did it take that long? And then it's exactly that. Like when you have enough of those moments where you're like, I clearly don't know how to interact with this the way it wants me to. Those combat moments where failure begins, you're like, you really, really feel it. And I think we all, or the three of us at least, have a unique experience with this game against other people who might be listening. But I was never... Okay, I remember being 16 and becoming aware of what I sounded like, specifically the Baltimore accent. And since I remember the day I was sitting in my 11th grade English class, and I remember thinking, oh, I need to get rid of this. And since then, for, 17 years now, I've tried very hard to erase that and make sure that I've changed it. I've never been more aware of that accent within myself than playing this game. I might as well have been like one of the stereotypical, just like, oh, hello there, Rio, run down the hallway and pick up a thing. Because I was just so... Because I felt like I was getting all these false detections because maybe my O's were a little too O-y, you know what I mean? Like, it was just... I was so mad, like, all these weird conflicted feelings of, I don't know, self-identity or identity crisis or whatever the hell I went through, all coming back up to me.
Right, but then, like, the beginning of the game calibrates you, right? Like, they want you to say specific words, and you pass it with flying colors every time. Like, I've never had once failed that, so they make you think that you're okay.
Yeah, there's confidence.
And then they're like, and then they, like, gaslight you into thinking that you're not saying it correctly or something.
I also think, though, that I think consciously we were very careful with the way we were saying things initially, because I think we were, at least I was, right? Like I knew this was a dictation-based game, so, and I know how Siri is, so like I went in making sure I was enunciating every vowel, every consonant, like tried to be the most proper English that I know to my ability, trying to hit that benchmark. And I think, my first half of this game, or what I experienced, to the second half and my eventual, like, I'm not playing this game anymore, because there's a steep drop off. But I think part of that is I got confident, and when I got confident, I stopped thinking as much. But when I stopped thinking as much, I was resorting back to how I typically pronounce things, and sometimes that's not completely correct, and I'm willing to admit that with my also Baltimore accent. I'm
leaning on that, but I think it's also just like the game doesn't always pick up on, even if you say exactly what you're supposed to do. Like sometimes it has trouble detecting those things.
But even like my 90% hit rate in the beginning, I think fell to 60 because I was getting more. I don't know. I don't want to say I was rushing through the game, but I think I was just getting more confident, lackadaisical with thinking. Yeah. And then my mistakes would start happening. And then you get mad because mistakes are happening. And you're not doing anything to fix it. You're just yelling instead of saying it correctly. And that's not helping anything either. So I think that was part of it too. I think we all kind of maybe passed our benchmarks of flying colors because we had that thought in the back of our head, but I think maybe as you keep playing, that thought, you get comfortable because you're getting confident and it goes away. I think
which in a way is very much like any other video game, because in the beginning you are doing these very specific actions as you learn it, and then the idea is that you're repeating those things until eventually they just become second nature. And I feel like that did happen in this. It's just that this one you kind of can't have things become second nature. You need to always be on the
stay
ready
on it.
Yeah. To pull back a little bit, because I read the back of the box, obviously, but the game starts out very cool, like Parasite Eve opening, right? There's this big holiday looking party, and all of a sudden chaos breaks out, and there's an attack by these weird creatures, and this game becomes kind of like a Resident Evil-ish in a way. I'm hesitant to fully compare it to that, but like it just kind of has some of those weird creatures about, and you are playing as someone who's trapped inside of a security monitoring room, and you're helping someone navigate through a locked down hotel to try and figure out not only like how to survive, but I think also sort of the mystery behind where these creatures came from, why they're there, what's going to happen to humanity, etc. And so on. It continues. But Matt, you mentioned this before, like you're paired up with a hotel employee who that part of it, like the fact that you have to tell her to shoot was very like, I get it. It's fun to like, when it worked, it's fun to engage with that and like say like, do this, shoot left eye, shoot right eye, shoot red eye, shoot stomach, whatever. Which also I've learned now that like the way I was giving her commands during combat was totally incorrect. Like you can like just say other things.
And
like,
you can also,
yeah,
I think you're alluding to like you can dial them up, like like left eye, middle eye, right eye.
Yep.
And then like even say something that is not even existing, because there's a couple enemies that like when you shoot a certain body part, it reveals another body part that is not even like an option yet per se.
It's not a
or,
visual
like, you
option,
can't
but
see
if
it.
you just say it in the string, it'll pick it up. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, you know, there's little things you can do like that, and also like it's unnatural to do this, but like there is a controller aspect to this game. It's very limited, but like you have to hold the circle button to talk. You can hold in circle, dial up your command, but it's not like you're talking to her. You have to let go of circle for it to then like process, and then she will do that. So you can do some timing-based things related to that. Like you can see the alien about to attack. You can say dodge and just wait to that perfect second to then let go and have her kind of do whatever your command was. But I get that feel that I think that goes against the point of this. It feels unnatural to, you know, you're supposed to be guiding someone along the video, not like left eye, middle eye, right eye. Like,
Yeah.
It's like she thinks when you don't want her to think, and then when you want her to think, she's like completely clueless.
Yeah. That's actually a really good point.
And like
that.
And like it seems backwards to, all right, you're in a battle. You're able to see every part labeled that you can shoot at, but yet when you're walking around in the damn hotel room, you can't have every object highlighted like it's a point and click. You know, like everything on the table should already had been labeled, and then you just pick to interact with it. That would have killed half the stress this game has.
I totally agree.
This is one of those things. There's a couple things that I really thought deeply about this game. Of like there is issues. There are serious issues with this game in terms of its voice mechanics, and I thought about a lot of the different mechanics to see how I could improve it to make the game still work but make the experience better for the player. And one of those, all you need to say to Ryu, or however you say your name, is all you have to say is what's on the table, or look around, what do you see? If you had that and then it labeled everything for you, oh my god, that would have been so much better.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have that, and you have to guess.
Like, if you could do that in a combat situation too, where like something pops up and, you know, you ask Rio like, hey, what do you see? Or, you know, watch behind you, and she turns around and very quickly, like, I don't know, give her a scanner thing. I don't know, whatever.
Yeah, like, like if you hit L1, you get a map, and then like you can choose the destinations of where to go. Like the rooms are labeled, so it's like everything else in this game is labeled. What the shit you need to look at?
Yeah.
Which I get. Maybe they did that intentionally to like lengthen the gameplay or something, to have more time exploring. When, you know, take a knee. But
there's another element that I want to talk about that you hear it in the back of the box. There's a lot of moments within the game, within dialogue with the characters, the overall approach to Rio, and it's 2023 now, and I do not think by any stretch of the imagination that we are done as humanity in fixing these problems. I don't know the end is even in sight. But I'm happy that we've at least come a long way from where this was. But I forgot how gross things used to be toward women in games, blatantly. And not just games, but media and things like that. Just the over-sexualization and the, like, tongue-in-cheek, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. But, like, even in the box art, the paragraph on the back where she'll do anything you tell her is like,
which is not true.
I hammed it up when I read that. Well, yeah, that's not. Yeah, you're right. She won't.
That's just lingo to sell the game.
That part just was like, that part's gross. There's the line from, I forget the character, but he like, she's in the middle of talking and he's like, save it for someone who cares, bimbo. Just those types of things. I feel like we just don't have a lot of that anymore, and I'm grateful for it, because we're now able to see characters who aren't white dudes with depth and emotion to them, which is a welcomed change. But it really, like, reminded me of those pick up a video game magazine from anywhere after 1995, and there is a half-naked Lara Croft somewhere in the pages. Or if there's not an image, then there's a fan letter or a nod to something what we want to do to Lara. There's always, like, and it was just such a boys club, and I don't know, it stood out in this game for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe it's because of the premise of it, where, like, you are controlling a woman with your voice. I don't know. Maybe I'm going too far with it, but it just... Yeah.
Well, I'm thinking with this game, maybe they were trying to highlight some of those problems. And that's why she's a protagonist to begin with. And that's why you have such shitty characters that end up dying anyway. But
they all get it coming back to her.
It could be also, like, a partial localization thing. Like, maybe just America sells it worse than maybe what Japan does. I don't know. Like, I don't think that back in the box paragraph is going to be the same in Japan. I can't imagine. It could be, but I feel like the chances would be a little lower.
I get what you're saying, and to Joe's point, I don't think this game is necessarily the worst offender of this type
not
of...
Not at all.
No, especially in this era of video games.
No, yeah, this era had plenty of garbage.
But to Mark's point, there is a line. There's a line where you go into like a medic bay, and for some reason she wants you to list every single fucking thing you can find in a medic bay, and even if you say the word chemicals, it doesn't stop the conversation. It just keeps going and going and going. However, during that conversation, if one of the things you say is nurses, she is immediately, "Oh, so you like nurses?" in like a weird. And it's like, why? You literally asked what you find in a medic bay. I said a nurse because it's the 9th fucking time you asked me this question. I said 8 different things already. So I don't know. It's again, not the worst offender. It's I'm glad, like Joe said, I'm glad we got more characters like I don't know, like an Ellie and things like that. But
right,
yeah, there's depth now. There's a range.
Yeah.
She did have like a weird the way for the English voice. There was something about her voice that I did like. Like, I did like listening to her when she wasn't verbally abusing me. And like she had some charm and wit to her. She could be a little funny here and there when she wanted to be. And the way she talked, it reminded me so much of like old 90s like TV shows or movies where like the character talks to the viewer. Kind of like a I mean, I know it's not 90s, but what was that? Why can't I think that Hillary Duff show?
Hannah Montana. No.
Where she had like a little cartoon drawing of herself. Sometimes like in between segments.
I think Matt said it. What did you say?
Lizzie McGuire?
Yeah,
Yes,
I think
thank you.
Yeah.
Like, I think that was a show where she did that, right? Where she would talk to the viewer, like in between stuff, or like
Probably. I'm picturing like
that
a
era
Carmen
of Disney.
Sandiego
Yeah.
thing.
right. But like, Malcolm in the Middle also does it, or like Malcolm will talk to you whenever he has
Yeah.
like his thoughts or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
she kind of had that type of cadence to her for some reason to me, and I found that to be a little charming when it wanted it to be, when it worked. But yeah, and then like if you did something wrong or if you were quiet for a little too long, she got real impatient real quick, and it's like, all right, charm wore off like almost immediately.
So I found the Japanese box and I've got a translation of it here. Just scrubbing through, there's nothing in here that goes anywhere close to that. So I think it is a problem with localization. Just for, comparison's sake, the back of the Japanese box says, Sora Station Hotel received an alien war. You were locked in the monitor room. The hope of escaping is visible to you and beyond the monitor. Only one microphone that connects the waitress. Then it has the kind of breakdown that, like, what you can say, those types of things, real-time voice action, blah, 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 blah. And then, eventually, the heart and mind to communicate with each other could not be done by conventional controller production alone. It's full of new entertainment. Fight aliens with your voice, excitement. We communicate with each other with our voices, joy. The action adventure of the new era is finally here.
So yeah, there's no real like innuendos there.
Yeah, no. I mean, that's a very literal translation of the Japanese, so I don't know if there's some subtlety that's lost in that, but I think that was
don't want to get too deep into conspiracy theories here, but that might be the difference between Sony's advertising versus Konami's advertising, because there are two different publishers for the regions.
Yeah, and I mean, like, but again, this was the North American localization, like 2003. This comes out in 2004. Like, American Pie is the #1 movie. All of those, like, that kind, right? Like, remember that era of crap is like very much. I guess it would probably be a little late for American Pie, but like, there's plenty of that.
American Pie 2 and Wedding are probably.
Oh gosh.
Oh. You're serious.
Speaking of voice commands, not doing what we wanted to do. Anyway, yeah, I didn't mean to take us down too much of that tangent, but it was something that definitely stood out to me. And then I noticed it while playing. And then as I prepped for the episode to grab the back of the box stuff and all that and whatever, and I saw that on the back, I was like, man, they even did it here too. That sucks. Like, it just, but
if there's one positive thing that I could ask everyone, what was your favorite thing to say to her or ask her?
Run.
Okay, so I mean, like, so like no one like took a breather to like try to talk to her, like actually have a conversation.
No, because I had too many with her in cutscenes.
Fair.
That's fair. I remember like earlier on, just sort of just like trying out to see what she would respond to. Little things like "How are you?" or just like little things I'd ask a person. I remember asking her what the weather. I tried to like repeat things that I would ask Siri, like "What's the weather today?" and stuff like that, just to see what she would say. Yeah, I know there are some things that you can say to her to get specific reactions. Did you have stuff like that popped up?
Yeah, I remember doing a lot of this way back too, just to see what you could get away with. Like, so like, she doesn't really pick up on insults or anything like that, but if you do try to be more specific with it, like, she'll just like kind of play it off and like, ha, yeah, right, like that sort of thing. But my favorite was to get her to bark. So if you say like bark like a dog, she'll be like, little dog, woof woof, or big dog, woof woof. And I was like, all right, see, like that's funny. Like, she could be funny, but
yeah,
she won't will not meow like a cat. She doesn't understand that one at all. So,
she doesn't even have
she'll pick up on dog.
Yeah, that's things. Yeah, I remember you telling me about Bark Like a Dog, and I tried that, and I was like, I liked that it gave her a sense of, personality, because you're spending a whole X amount of hours with this character. It's neat to like kind of build and grow that relationship, especially like the way that I think this game puts you in place of the person in the security room. Like, you do really feel like you, just like we talked about with some of the other games this season, like this was one that put you, the player, in the actual actions of the character.
Yeah.
So there, she is also aware too. So there's a scene. I forget what's going. I think you're on an elevator or whatever they want to call this elevator in a space station, but you're like moving from one section to another in like a lift or whatever. And I don't know, you're just trying to kill time, and she asks you what your favorite word is or whatever. And at this point, I'm getting fed up with the game, so I just said fuck. And she was like, "Oh my god, how dare you," or something like that. So it was like, there is some like, I think they kind of expected some answers like that, and and programmed it accordingly. But when she reacted, I thought she was just like, "Oh, that's just some fucking caked in scripted bullshit." But no, when she reacted the one, I was like, "All right, sure."
Yeah, I think I said, I love you to her just to see what she would say, and she'd be like, "All right, easy there, Casanova," or like something like that. Just like, she wasn't like harsh, but she just brushes you off with a lot of like rude comments. I guess besides that one.
How many times did you all not hold in circle and yell "fuck you" in anger?
Oh, I made sure she heard me every time.
Okay.
Unless it said "cannot talk," and it's like
there were just so many moments where I just need to blow off steam, and I was just like, I'm just with my headset in this fucking hallway, just like, motherfucker, listen, like in the middle of battle. It's like all this other shit. It's like, God, it did get frustrating, and I just boiled over a few times.
I won't give her the blame, but she didn't help the situation. The Sun Suite.
Mm-hmm.
So that part, you need a special voice login to get into that room, because it's in honeymoon mode or something like that.
Yes, yes.
So both the bride and the groom have to say a phrase. They each say half of the phrase, and then they both say the entire phrase together. And the way that the computer prompts you doesn't prepare you for that right away. Just the way that they word it is very confusing. And then you get it. And then once you try to say it together, that part you had to keep doing over and over. If you fail that, then you have to do the whole process over again.
All the way back.
And that was where my patience was starting to wear a little thin, because I would say it at the same speed as her, but maybe one word was off or something, like by like a millisecond, and then it failed, and then she'd be like, "Oh, come on!" Like she actually like exhaled, so like she sighed, yelled at me, like actually yelled at me, made me cry. No, but
it happened to me a couple times too. This is
like,
not clear.
She was straight up rude. I was like, wow. All right, this is
impatient, I
was like, you know what? I guess this is mutual. Our relationship is mutual right now. The way we hate each other.
Yeah, every time you make one mistake, I'm screaming at you. So this is fair.
Yeah.
How about the story overall? What was your guys', resounding? And Matt's waving his hand dismissively.
I don't mind where it went. I just don't like how long it took to get there.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It could have, like it did. This could have been probably like maybe 2-3 hours shorter than what it is.
If you cut out a lot more of the like hotel room exploration stuff at the beginning, and I think that did just feel like a drag because of how many repeat actions you have to do. Whether they were successful, I think obviously the ones that were unsuccessful were really taxing on your ability to stay engaged. But I think,
it's like for the current events that were happening, it's but there is like a lot of exposition that just gets kind of dumped on you near the end. I mean, there is interesting stuff that is happening, but at the same time, it's like, oh, here's all this lore dump right here.
Yeah.
We're not gonna
Yeah.
like really sprinkle it much.
Yeah, it was fine. It was a sci-fi horror game.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say I expected every twist and turn. The thing that fucked me up though is they're talking about this thing called the Philosopher's Stone. There was a thing in Metal Gear Solid called the Philosopher's Legacy, and it was really fucking me up the entire time. And then for there to be the surprise Swiss bank account, that is what the Philosopher's Legacy is in Metal Gear Solid. It is a trust fund of money between all the philosophers of Metal Gear. All right, I'm going to save us 15 minutes of a lore dump there, but yeah, there's money in this, and then there's money with the philosophy. I was like, what?
So,
what is going on?
Hold on, which Metal Gear is that in?
3, and then it bleeds into Peace Walker.
So this probably came out before 3.
Yeah, I don't remember when 3 came out, but I'm wondering.
Though
Yeah, I
3
wonder if
3 still probably could have been written at this point, just not not out.
Yeah, and with Konami localizing this, like I wonder if they were. I mean, heck, you might have had the same localization team working on both Snake Eater.
I didn't think
and
about that.
this. So it was released in 2004 in North America and Japan.
3 was?
Late 2004.
I know it was late into the
was.
PS2 cycle
Yeah.
Yeah.
because Kojima originally wanted out on new hardware, but Konami wanted another game. Anyway, that was fucking me up a little bit. I was like, what? God damn it, can we get away from philosophers? Like, but yeah, it was fine. I thought there was some interesting, like, little set pieces. I like the, I don't know. There were, sometimes it worked against you because then you would lose. I hate being punished that hard, especially in a PS2 game where there's no auto-saving and you have to make sure you're consciously saving a lot.
The save point.
Yeah, I like those times where she's like, "What do you want me? What should I do?" Kind of just like panicking, and like you can tell her like run or things like that, or I don't know. There was some stuff there. I don't know. I think this kind of leads me into like for every because I think I liked the concept of this game in general. I think I liked there's something here that if it better executed, I think this is a very good game. And I just, along the way, especially after, like I said, I thought I had a good start. It quickly becomes repetitive, going into room to room, area to area, item for item. And then the enemy encounters, they throw in some new enemies. But when they throw in the new enemies, they get drastically harder because of the timing-based mechanics. So, like, I was trying to think, like, how can we keep the core concept, but improve it? And it got me to thinking, think about this, because I think everyone's impulse reaction is like, oh, man, if I had a controller, this game would be, if I just had control of the entire situation, I was in control of her, this would be a lot better game. But think about it. It would be the most boring fucking game in the world. It wouldn't be fun at all. I think you would fall off after maybe the spider is more of a boss fight, and maybe you go a little bit farther. But if you're doing the room to room to room thing, there's no way I would have finished it. I think the fact that I didn't finish this, but that was for another reason. But I got much further than I think I would have with control of the character. I just think there's little small improvements with the voice or adding voice additions, like the look around the area, what do you see kind of action. They kind of pick those things out. I think a little bit more use of the controller and the targeting system would have been my biggest improvement to the combat. Instead of saying left eye, middle eye, right eye, like I can go and select it and then tell her to shoot. Or just worry more about like dodging and shooting more so than like specifically left eye, middle eye, right eye. Or maybe hovering over those areas and hitting X and making it a little bit more time-based. Or turn the situation, make it maybe more turn-based, so that way you can... I kind of like the heat of the moment kind of aspect for this game, so I don't want to turn it to turn-based, but at least something so that way like you have time to do voice commands, you have a little bit more forgiveness on the timing-based attacks. I don't know, it's like I want this game to work more so than I want control of the character. I don't know how you all felt about that.
Yeah, I'm definitely in the camp that I would rather control her. I play a lot of boring games as it is, so I probably would be okay with it in the end. But to go with the voice thing, I think her having an option to be auto battle should have been from the start and not a tip you find as you're painstakingly exploring this hotel.
By the way, I don't know how well that works. That could be as well as some other fucking auto battle system.
But let's say this was implemented from the very start, right? And like she thinks for herself, she knows when to reload. Maybe she doesn't know her vitals, and that's where you can come in to like tell her when she needs to recover or something. But I think you should be able to assist her in the battles, not by just telling her where to shoot. Because like maybe over time she can pick up on that on herself. Maybe she might not know in the beginning, right? That's fair. Creatures you never dealt with, sure. But like if you're in that room and you're able to open and unlock doors and all that, maybe you can help turn off the lights. Maybe you can turn on different things that mess with the enemies. You know, like maybe she has like a scanner or like night vision or something. You turn out the lights, she can see in the dark. They can't. Boom, surprise attack. Like, you know what I mean? Like use the room to your advantage to help her. So like you can make the obstacles to make it a little easier for her or something. I think that would have been a little more enticing.
Another thing that I thought of was like, you know, if we went the auto battle system, would be what if like I wouldn't want to do this after every battle, but like make it like a button, or you just talk about it, be like, I noticed that this character, you know, this enemy, their weakness is a stomach, so that way like in the auto battle she will like focus more on the stomach or something like that, and just like you said, assist and guide suggestions rather than literally be left eye, middle eye, right eye, and done. Or hopefully you're done, unless you get the other variant that has more health. But like the turnaround shit, like when an enemy's behind you, you can't target it, and you're trying to say enemy number 2, and she doesn't see it, and it's like, fucking turn around. Like obviously, like just like that shit, that is so infuriating. And then when you get like the sandwiched attack, you got this fucker with his tongue hitting you every goddamn second. You got this other fucker that's charging you. You got these little flubber looking goddamn things jumping on you, and they're all over it. If you get more than 2 enemies on a screen and they're not positioned in an advantageous way to you at all, it is very challenging.
Or if
spin in a circle
if you tell her,
and shoot gun.
Yeah, like if you tell her to flee, and like she'll get some distance between the enemies, but now there's a table in your way and you can't shoot the slug on the floor because you keep shooting the table.
Move left.
Yeah.
Move left.
Yeah.
Move left. Move left.
Okay, I'll recover.
Oh man, yeah.
Dodge and
thankfully,
shoot right eye.
Thankfully, it's not a survival horror game in that aspect.
Not
Because
in
like
that, not in that
they are
intense
pretty
way.
generous with like how you take damage and picking up healing items, but when you're
Unlimited
trying to
ammo. Could you imagine?
Oh
Yeah.
god, no! There's no
Just
way.
because I was so concerned when she was missing shots, I was like, "Oh no!" And then I realized that number. It actually took me longer than I should have. That number in the top right hand corner next to the ammo is your recovery items. I didn't realize that. I thought that was like number of clips. I'm like, God damn it, dude! There is no fucking way I'm getting out of this room when she's missing 50% of the shots.
Yeah, but like if you're not doing good with combat and you're just exploring, and she just ends up using a consumable while exploring, it's like, well, all right.
Yeah.
You either got to reload your save from the last save point in whatever room you were in, or...
And then it's like something like that. It's like, you know, in the heat of battle, if a reload is recover, like, it sucks, but I can eat that and be okay with it. But like you said, when you're exploring, you're at full health, and you know, right living room. I don't know what the R word would be per se, but you know, you start a word with R and it's taken as recover. There should be like a recover. Are you sure you want me to do that right now? Like some kind of confirmation
or
in that.
detection. Hey, I'm at full health. I can't recover right now.
I agree. You don't have to say it like that. Just be like, oh, I don't know. I'm feeling pretty good right now. I don't think I need it. And then just,
Yeah.
you know, you yell at me about everything else. Tell me you don't fucking need health. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
I don't know. It's just one of those things. I feel like if it was made now, it'd be a little bit better. I think it's just ahead of its time.
Yeah. Do you think that they could make a sequel that would work well?
I just think
Yes.
there is a little bit more room for a dictionary.
Yeah.
There's more like processing power and things like that to comprehend a little bit more.
I mean, a lot more things like with machine learning and other like advanced AI things that we do have readily available to developers. I think there's an easier way for, if they were able to pull this off in 2003, you know, imagine what they could do in terms of range of voices and voice types, because, you know, I brought up the local Baltimore accent, but there's other accents from all over the place that are, you know, that even Siri can't get right. Like, type in Scottish accent Siri and into your favorite YouTube, and there's all sorts of videos of, you know, Scottish people just trolling and laughing because Siri can't understand anything they're saying. But I think that there's ways to get around that.
Actually, at my job, there is something very similar that they could use. So, sometimes we have to put on a headset to do maintenance work, and so instead of writing everything down, we have to log it through basically a Siri like companion that's talking in your ear about everything, walking you through the process, asking you what's this, what's that, what's the measurement of this, and you have to give all the stuff back. And you can even change her pitch, the speed that she's talking, the volume. But before that, you have to calibrate your own voice. So she gives you more than just 3 prompts. Like, she'll give you like so many things to say because everybody that works there, you know, speaks differently.
Sure.
So the way you say a number versus the way someone else says a number, she'll pick up on the way on your dictations, and she'll know for a fact. So that it makes it 10 times more accurate.
Yeah, just doing a simple
else.
calibration at the beginning would be
and probably because I deal with that at work and I don't like it, probably didn't help this game much either.
Yeah.
Real life
But
seeped in a little
bit.
bit.
See a world where a sequel is built for PlayStation VR 2. This would be a cool VR game where, like, if you have the touch controls, the pointer controls, like, you could point to things. Like, you know, there's different things you could do in this scenario where you're stuck in a security room, but, like, you could interact with the world and use voice commands differently.
And there's so many puzzle games out now that are cooperative based, where like maybe you're in 2 different rooms, or maybe you see something someone else doesn't, and you can guide them that way, or something like keep talking, nobody explodes. I think I'd rather have that option. Probably if like one person was handling the combat and the other person was just handling all the other stuff.
Yeah.
But as far as guiding an AI companion, that could totally fly today.
You see, it's funny you mentioned that, like that asymmetrical thing. I mean, there's obviously games like that, but like I feel like a lot of like raids from like your Destinies and stuff take advantage of those situations a little bit. You know, I feel like you can get those experiences there. Of course, you need a little bit more of a party. Like usually you need 6. I don't know what it is in like World of Warcraft. I know like the new Call of Duty raid is like it's a 3-person fire team, and there was like some stuff where like you have to look at a camera and kind of guide some things. I don't know, you find some of that there too.
Now? Right.
It's just one, but you know, I'm sure with season 2 another one will come.
Okay.
I forget the name of the game, but I was thinking more something of like it's like one of you is a hacker and the other one is a spy. But the spy actually has to break into the buildings, and then the hacker like, you know, messes with all the components to help you get through and stuff like that. I forget the name.
I mean, yeah, you're talking about, you know, making this a sequel or whatever. I think of a game like Scribblenauts. Like, look how advanced that was on a DS.
Yeah.
And you don't, in this point. Then like, you know, you don't even need to draw an asset for this. You just need to program it to have her perform action.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's I think there's a lot of potential here.
I think so too. And like, if you look through the list of games that use your voice as a command, it's not a large list by any stretch of the imagination. I think like the most recent, maybe well done iteration of this was kind of a spiritual successor to one of our games from last year. D4, Dark Dreams Don't Die, was another sweary game that used Connect. But I mean, prior to that, stuff like Brain Age did it pretty well. I'm not sure if you guys have toyed around with the voice controls in Brain Age. Nintendogs as well was another one on DS that did it, interestingly. Mark mentioned Hey You Pikachu at the top, which was one. Another one which did not make the cut for season 11, but who knows what season 12 will bring, is Odama by Ute Saito. It's a GameCube pinball game.
Yeah.
That requires the microphone because you shout commands at certain times. You're still playing pinball, but then you shout commands at certain times. It's an interesting game. Of course, Ute Saito also made Seaman, which was the original voice-controlled video game. Maybe not the original, but one.
No, well, way back on Famicom, Zelda.
Oh yeah, great point.
Second controller had a microphone, so Poe's voice, you'd have to scream for those to get rid of them.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, there's examples out there. There's things that you could do, and I think the really neat thing too is when you think about games today trying to be more accessible. What's more accessible than a one-button game that uses? And today you could probably program this so that it didn't need. It'd probably be always listening, but you could probably program it so you didn't need to do any button input at all. Yeah, I'd be smitten if we had a VR2 sequel.
Yeah,
make it happen. Jim Ryan, do
Quality
something
of life
right.
Improvements.
Yes. Well, it's time to rank Lifeline among the list. Of course, you can follow along the list at thefreecheese.com/thelist as it continues to grow and change and find new additions every week on this podcast. Ooh.
I feel like I should go first.
Huh?
No, what were you going to say?
I would say I quite like Lifeline, but I don't love Lifeline, and
I think Lifeline's concept is better to think about than actually experiencing the game itself.
That's a great point.
But we have to accept the harsh reality that this game is not good.
That's fair.
And I have to redeem myself a little bit here. So, to apologize to Billy Hatcher, it becomes a new 47 right underneath of it. Because I'd rather play Billy Hatcher than Lifeline.
Ooh. I had it just mildly, that's not the right adjective. I had it just, or adverb, right a little bit higher than that. I had it right above Sunset Overdrive.
I'd rather play Sunset.
I'd rather play Sunset.
See, I wasn't taking the I'd rather play it approach, but now that you've done that, I think I agree. I'd rather play...
That's a big factor.
That's it. Yeah.
At least with most of these other games, if I make a mistake, it's more so my fault. Like, I'm in more control of the fault. So I'm trying to think about it like that, too.
I like it. Do we like it above Cool Spot?
No.
You don't?
No.
Where do you like it above Paperboy 2?
No.
Blinks the Time Sweeper?
I'm having an internal debate, but I think I like this a little bit better than Blinks.
Okay, so it's not worse than Blinks.
You think
this is the new 49?
Paperboy.
I think its potential is the only reason I'm drawing it closer to above Blinks. I mean, yeah, this is my problem with the game. As cool of a concept, and as much as they went for it, like Like what Mark said, like, yeah, they went for it, but it fails. It sometimes doesn't fundamentally work right.
Yeah.
Which is an issue for a video game in which you control
Yeah, that's
and interact.
Yes.
It's not to say it's broken, but like, it doesn't work sometimes, and that's an issue.
That's fair.
I think Blink's its system sucks so bad that is unplayable. I think it is playable at times, but and it's a unique idea. Again, potential, but it's just not a good game because it's failings. That's too many.
Mark, you know what I like about this season? When it comes to ranking, Matt acts like he's not going to make a statement or dictate. But if you look back at the last 5 rankings, he's what puts the game in place. Comes in here every time we get to the ranking, he leans back, hand on his head, like, I'll let you guys figure this out. But he knows exactly where it's going, and he's pulling our strings this whole time. Do you feel good, Mark, about this at 49? Or do you think it goes higher? I'm cutting the strings. That's what I'm getting at here.
I guess it's not too different. I mean, I thought just because of the novelty is what made me bump it up to 47, but I'm fine with it being 49.
I like it over Paperboy 2.
I just had to have Billy be above it. It
I'm
felt
good, yeah,
right to
I'm
do
good
that.
with that.
Sorry, Billy.
What it works is good. That's the problem. I think that's the problem. Yeah. I just think it fails more than it works, especially later. Yeah, and it gets that repetitive piece as well.
I think that's why I like it above even Cool Spot, because I didn't like Cool Spot.
Well, I didn't like Cool Spot either.
Yeah,
but I liked Lifeline. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
fair.
Lifeline is something I could revisit after a couple weeks or a month off.
Agreed.
Cool Spot, I'm not even thinking about.
No. Now, that other spot goes to Hollywood, coming to you later this year on the Free Cheese seasonal. Maybe we should. We still have a couple bye weeks to fill in.
No, it's all right. I'll play this again. I watched a speedrun of this game in preparation for today's episode. I know how to play it now.
I like Mark's original placement of 47. Just below Billy, right above Cool Spot. Are you good with that, Matt?
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, I think it's the side of the coin you want to look at. It's when this game doesn't work, it doesn't work. But when it does work, it's actually not a bad game.
Yeah, I agree. Well, there it is. Lifeline. The new 47. We've got quite the rest of the month ahead of us. 2 more games to add to the list. We're going to close out the month with Sonic Frontiers. But just ahead of that, come back next week as we talk Metal Gear Solid. Or, depending on where you are, Metal Gear Ghost Babel. That's right, it's the Game Boy Color game, not the PlayStation 1. So we'll be back for that one next week. Come back, hang out with us. Until then, run outside. Scream. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, listener, for listening. See you next week. Bye-bye.